Hiya, I'm Kiva and I'm here with Molly Dowrick. Molly is the senior reporter at Plymouth Live. She has been shortlisted for the Catherine Nicholl Award in the Society of Editors Regional Press Awards. So Molly's here with me now and we're going to ask and answer a couple of questions about journalism, and we'll start with just asking you how you are, Molly.
Really good, thank you. Pleased to speak to you today.
Good, thank you. First of all, how did you get into journalism?
So I'd always loved English at school. That was definitely my strongest subject at school, and I loved writing, and kind of all the way through school. And then I knew I wanted to do an English degree. So at 18, I left Plymouth and went to Swansea, so about 150 miles, 3 hours away, to do an English literature degree with a year abroad. And I got involved in student media. I was writing for the student newspaper in Swansea and the student magazine on my year abroad. And over there, the way it works is it was seen as a service. So I was paid to write feature articles for the student magazine on my year abroad. And that was the first time I'd ever thought, oh, I could actually make a living from my writing. And obviously it wasn't a big payment at all, but it was quite nice to get that paycheck and think, oh, actually that can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back and finished my degree and started looking into journalism postgraduate options, and went to Cardiff University to do a master's in magazine journalism, which for me was the perfect mix of kind of features and people magazine kind of style writing and straight news. Through that course, that was a 1-year intensive course, and I did some work experience placements and then finished that and became a trainee reporter at Plymouth Live, which is our local news site for Plymouth in Southwest England. And I qualified as a senior reporter last year. So really focus on the English and the literature side into writing, and then here I am.
Lovely. And where did you go for your year abroad?
I went to Canada and it was incredible. I was in Peterborough, which was about an hour and a half away from Toronto. I always liked American and North American writing, Canadian writing and stuff. But yeah, an incredible year and a great challenge for me. But kind of, career wise, it's interesting that was the first time I'd thought, actually, this is where I want to go. And I don't think perhaps I would have realised that I could become a journalist and become paid for my writing if I hadn't had that experience. So yeah,
amazing.
Really exciting.
Brilliant. So Molly, what story have you written that you're most proud of or that you enjoyed writing the most?
So I love being able to stand up for local people and the stuff that affects them. And a couple of months ago, we were contacted by a local lady who has a condition called POTS, and this affects her entire body. It will cause her to randomly faint. She'll get headaches, blood pressure problems, all of these things. And she's cared for by a health clinic in our city. And the clinic was coming under threat of being closed. And I had a lengthy interview with her, and I heard that this clinic serves more than 1,000 people in the Plymouth area. And without warning, the hospital was set to close it like the month after. They hadn't really talked about the fact it was going to close down, and they were just going to. So I had a lengthy interview with her, and then I felt like I had to champion her cause a bit to the hospital and kind of raise the issue again. What's going to happen? Why are you closing down? It was to do with one particular clinician's the expert in the field, and he was set to retire. So eventually, after a bit of emailing and I felt like I had to really raise this lady's fight, I guess. The hospital arranged for the clinic to be extended for 1 more year, so they can train a kind of a junior doctor, I guess, to take it over. But I don't think that would have happened had myself or other media agents in the Southwest got behind this lady's fight. So I was really proud of that.
That's amazing.
And I'm also really proud of some of the work I do for tributes. Obviously, hearing about people that have passed away is just heartbreaking, particularly if it goes to an inquest or a court case, stuff like that. But I think being able to interview the family in a respectful way and write a tribute piece focusing on the life the person led rather than their unfortunate passing, I think can make a big difference. That the family's bereavement, but also on a news perspective, focuses on the person that they were, not just their unfortunate passing. I'm really proud of the way I deal with those situations and try and write something that the family can be proud of.
That's lovely. That's really, really lovely and so important. Right, we'll move on to the next one, and it's, if you could write about anything, what would it be and why?
Positive people making a difference in their local community. I think in the last year, more than ever before, we our readers, and I'm sure readers across the UK and beyond, have been calling out for those positive news stories. I think there's been so much talk about COVID or crime or stuff going through court, whatever it is. Obviously, bad news sells. We know that. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'd love to be able to bring more of a platform for positive news and those local people making a difference. And we've done a lot of that in the last year, particularly in that first lockdown. I wrote a lot of articles about, you know, young people that may be doing the shopping for their elderly neighbour, or going out of their way to help people that were struggling in the pandemic. And I'd love to see kind of positive news take a bigger step in the next few years and beyond, and become just as important to people as the negative news that we read about so much.
Excellent. What current issue are you most interested in?
Oh, that's a good one. Should have thought about that one more.
It doesn't have to be a big political one or anything. It can
personally, I'm really interested in kind of male-female gender dynamics at the moment. I think even though we've come so far, you know, in the last centuries and recently with kind of the pay gap and women taking roles that were typically given to men, we're still seeing lots of stereotypes. And I think the current issue of stereotyping people, whether it's for their race, their gender, their sex, their background, socioeconomic status, whatever it is, I think, current issues of stereotyping is something I'm really interested in following. Recently, I wrote a piece about a school in London that had renamed head girl at the school. They'd renamed it head student. And I went to an all-girls high school myself, so I wrote an opinion piece about that. I agree with it. I think that's a great idea. I think the fact that it's a girl doesn't make the difference. It's the fact that that's the head student, or that the head leader, if you like, student leader. And a random anonymous person in the comment section left a message to say that men can do everything that women can do, but women can't do what men can do. Women can't become plumbers or contractors. And it just really bothered me. And I'm not a contractor myself, but I put a call out on social and for females in male dominated roles. And I interviewed a few women from across the region. One who is a dry liner, so in the construction industry. Another, my colleague spoke to, who's a female plumber, which is unusual in the plumbing industry. And a female bosun on a captain of a boat. And I think I was really glad to get a story out of it, but this issue of stereotyping and putting people into categories was just shocking to me. And I think that's something that news and the media in general, we can really combat. Is that a current issue?
Definitely. Brilliant. Molly, is there a famous writer or journalist that inspires you or that you sort of look up to?
Really cheesy, but I'm inspired by my team. I think there's such a focus, isn't there, on national journalists and international journalists who work incredibly hard, but so do the people in the local newsroom. So do my colleagues championing the fact that there are some buildings in the city with dangerous cladding on the buildings. There are some people in cities and towns across the UK and beyond that are having problems with their benefits from the councils or from the government and not being supported. And I think I'm really inspired by other local journalists across my team and beyond for what they're doing to champion local causes, as much as I am inspired by people like Emily Maitlis for her fantastic interview with Prince Andrew, and those bigger high profile journalists making a big difference nationally. But I think it's also just about those smaller sites and those local journalists making a difference as well.
Super important. Brilliant. What's the best part of your job and what's the worst part of your job?
Best part is being able to meet so many interesting people and being able to give them a voice. I'd like to think that I am not going to speak on behalf of someone. I want to be able to just raise the platform of their voice. I'm there to hear what they have to say and bring it to a new audience, like the lady we mentioned about with the health problem, or with people feeling ignored or sidelined by society. Perhaps they have a health issue they want to raise a profile about, or another issue, or they've launched a new business, and being able to celebrate that new business and draw attention to it is really exciting. And I love doing that. Most difficult, I think, is the comments. I think being a journalist, we're obviously in the public sphere a lot, and people think they know us perhaps more than we do, and that they know my name and they know the articles I write, and they might know a little bit about who I am, and my personality comes through a lot on like live streams and such. But I think people, because they see us daily or they read our articles daily and weekly, some people feel entitled to having opinions. And particularly as a young women, we get comments on what our hair looks like, our makeup, what we're wearing, or the style of my writing, and it gets quite draining when you're met with people, and you don't have to agree with everything I write. Not everybody does. In fact, sometimes I'm there to report facts, so sometimes that something I write I don't particularly like either, but that's the situation that we're reporting on. But I think trolls, particularly when they're anonymous and people trying to infiltrate and drag people down, whether it's myself, a journalist, or the person we're writing about, is definitely the most challenging aspect of being a journalist at the moment.
It's such a huge issue at the minute, isn't it? And it's so horrible. It really is. It's a horrible
It's
thing
draining.
to have to face.
It's really draining. It makes what can be a difficult interview or article that more difficult, because you've got to be aware of what people are gonna think or ask.
And there could be like 200 great things said, but it does seem to be that one bad thing that just sticks in your head too. It's horrible. It really is. We'll try and get a little bit more positive then, and we'll say, have you got any tips for aspiring journalists? So 3 maybe main tips.
Absolutely. So tip number 1, I would say yes to every opportunity that comes your way, even if it's something that doesn't really sound like something you were thinking you were interested in, whether it's a different topic that you were looking for. Definitely say yes to every opportunity. If you don't like it, that's absolutely fine, but you might as well give it a try, because it might surprise you, or you might get a contact from that you wouldn't have had otherwise, or just some quirky buzzwords, key phrases for your CV that you wouldn't have come across otherwise. Number 1, say yes to every opportunity that comes your way, if you can. Number 2, say yes to all training that comes your way. I think a lot of us, when we're junior journalists and trainees, we want to come across a professional that we know everything. Well, nobody knows everything. Even my colleagues that have got 20 years experience, we're still learning. So I think, as well as taking opportunities, any training and perhaps admitting your weaknesses, or admitting things that you find difficult and perhaps a bit more time consuming, saying yes to those training opportunities, or seeking them out yourself and asking your line manager or a colleague or a course mate, can you help me with this software that I don't really understand, or this topic that I'm really struggling to comprehend that. I think getting those opportunities yourself, rather than waiting for them to be offered to you, but if they are, saying yes, otherwise seeking them out can really help. And number 3, don't get beaten down if something doesn't go your way. Not every interview I do becomes a story. Not every post on social media or poster we see and it becomes a story. I think sometimes finding the story within it, even if it goes a different way, can be really helpful. But if something doesn't quite come off, or it doesn't go the way you're expecting, there's definitely going to be a few other things that will. So focusing on the things that you can achieve, and particularly early on in your career, as much as the ones that become more challenging, can make a great difference.
Yeah, brilliant. They're 3 really, really good tips for life, sort of. And then one last thing, could you tell us one thing about yourself that's not related to journalism?
I love Disney films and going out for cocktails with friends.
Lovely.
I'm a very social person, and on a weekend I like going for a walk. On a weekend I like going for a walk through the park, going to a beach locally, watching Disney films, and going for cocktails in cocktail bars, particularly if they're funky and independent, that kind of thing.
Brilliant. Have you got a favorite Disney film, or just anything?
I do like The Incredibles. The Incredibles 2 are just fantastic, aren't they? Anything that can make me laugh.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, Molly. Thank you so much. That was excellent.
Sorry I speak so fast.
No, not at all. And if people want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
So they can find me on Twitter at Molly L. Dowrick, or on Facebook, Molly Dowrick, the journalism page on there.
Brilliant. And if people want to find out more about Legitimate, you can find us on Twitter at legitimate_app, or you can find us at legitimate.io. All right. Thanks.